Hello YouTube and welcome to my Opus 14 spoiler reveal. I need to give a big thank you to the guys at Square Enix for allowing me to kick off the community spoiler season, and I've got a great card to show you guys today. But first and foremost, make sure to like and subscribe, because at 250 subscribers I will be running a competition where you get to win 3 booster packs of the most recent set release. So that's pretty cool if you're asking me. But yeah, I have got a great card to show you guys, and I will be doing it in my tried and true card combo fashion. So I will be linking up with some, not necessarily meta cards, but fun combinations nonetheless. Anyway, the card I get to reveal to you guys today is the Titan of Tides, the Lord of the Wall. It is none other than Leviathan. He is a 6 CP EX burst summon, water obviously, from World of Final Fantasy, who has the text: select up to 2 of the 3 following actions. Choose one forward your opponent controls, return it to its owner's hand. Choose one light forward or dark forward, put it at the top or bottom of its owner's deck, and choose one water forward in your break zone, add it to your hand. So he is a modal summon with some interesting abilities. So first and foremost, he's got the pretty standard water of bouncer forward. It's good though, because ultimately it is a high cost of summon, which means it gets around something like Phil Thanos, where he would normally cancel something of 5 CP or less, so you can bounce a lot more forwards with this guy. But then he's also got choose one light forward or dark forward, put it at the top or bottom of its owner's deck. So that can target your forwards or their forwards. So there are some crazy combos that can be done with this, and I'll be going over those later. And then you got choose one water forward in your break zone, add it to your hand. So that means he can recur you the cost of some of what you're paying for him as well. And, you know, if you combine this with something like Una or Unalesca, where you're bringing down the costs of your summons, or even the Opus 14 light card Marcherie, I think that's how you say it. Anyway, she will also reduce the cost of your summons as well. So there's some great ways to get this quite high cost to summon some more value for money. Anyway, first and foremost, let's go with Tama. So Tama is an Earth Dull, and put Tama into the break zone. Choose one category WAF card in your break zone, add it to your hand. Now Leviathan is actually the first World of Final Fantasy summon that we've seen so far. I can only assume there will be more in this set as well, probably an Ifrit, Ramu, and Shiva to go along the likes of Zapt, Blizz, Babliz, and Frit. But there obviously isn't one for Leviathan yet. Maybe there will be one in this set. But yeah, being able to just dull and break Tama to get Leviathan back to your hand is pretty decent. Means that you can use that on the fly, because you can use Tama whenever you want. Citra. So Citra is an EX burst with the text: when Citra enters the field, choose one summon or monster in your break zone, add it to your hand. So what you can do is, say your opponent is attacking and you cannot block with Citra and you're just willing to take the damage, you can cast Leviathan and maybe bounce one of your opponent's forwards, or just get a water forward from your break zone, add it to your hand. But you can put Citra at the top of your deck. You then take the damage from your opponent's attack, and lo and behold, it's Citra, an EX burst, which means that you get to get a summon or monster back from your break zone. Obviously it could be the Leviathan you cast, or it could be something else which you could combo to then further destroy your opponent's field even more. Then we've got the new Opus 14 Larsa. I think this guy was revealed about a month ago or longer, but he's got some interesting text. So when Larsa enters the field, choose one card in your damage zone, add it to your hand. Put one card from your hand into the damage zone. Its EX burst effect will not trigger. Now obviously this card goes great because Leviathan is itself an EX burst, so you could use Larsa to get Leviathan back to your hand. But you could also use it with the combo I just said, where you can put an EX burst light or dark card on top of your deck. You then take a point of damage, and that will have the EX burst effect. You can then play Larsa to get that card straight back to your hand, and then you can play that card if you want. Obviously that's a lot of CP investment, but you're doing a lot of things and it's probably worth it. Right, Altemisia. So when Altemisia enters the field, each player reveals the top card of their deck. Each player who revealed a character may play it onto the field. So you don't need me to tell you where we're going with this, but obviously you can cast Leviathan to put something on top of your deck. You then play Altemisia to reveal that card, play it onto the field. Now you do need to be careful, because obviously your opponent will be revealing a card as well, and will also get to play it. So there is the chance that it could be more beneficial to your opponent than it is you, but you know, sometimes it's worth the risk. You could use something like Golbez, where you can pay one lightning, reveal the top card. Oh look, it's a light or dark forward. You can then play him onto the field, but the chances are Golbez will kick the bucket before you get a chance to that, because that's what always happens with this card. Anyway, let's go with Altemisia and Nidhogg. So let's say you played Nidhogg earlier in the game, you paid the 9 CP, you removed one of your opponent's forwards, and you got to remove a card from their hand at random. You cast Leviathan, you put Nidhogg on top of your deck. You then play Altemisia to look, reveal Nidhogg, play him back onto the field. It's like a extensive way of flickering, but if you are in mono water with some dark, then that's another way to be able to do this. And the good thing about this as well is that even if Altemisia reveals a forward on your opponent's side, they will still have to remove a forward because of Nidhogg's text. You've also got something like Necron. So when Necron enters the field, choose one character other than Necron you control, its element becomes dark. This effect does not end at the end of the turn, so you could play Necron and then make a water or ice forward that you control a dark card. And then when you so choose, maybe you want to re-trigger its effect through playing Altemisia, you can cast Leviathan to put that forward on top of your deck, because when you're casting it, obviously it is a dark card, so you can put it on top of your deck. You then play Altemisia to replay that card. Obviously when it re-enters, it won't be a dark card anymore, but if it does have a pretty strong entry effect, then that'll be decent. And you know, you can combine this with the likes of 7 CP Sephiroth, or you know, there's so many cards out there. What you could also do as well is that if it is a good EX burst card, so again, it could be water or ice, so long as you're casting it as it's a dark card, put it on top of your deck, you take the damage, it goes to EX burst, and you take a decent EX burst. Now, ice doesn't have the best EX bursts when it comes to its forwards, but water does have some decent stuff along the lines of Porum. Ironic that the 2 EX bursts I've shown now are Retriever Summon from your break zone, but they're just the first one that came to hand. There's a lot of good water EX burst forwards though, which you could make dark through Necron, put on top of your deck, take the damage, and voila. You could even do that technically with Lasso if you wanted, which would be a weird way to go about it, but it works. Spiritus. So let's say you cast a Leviathan and you put a dark forward that you want to protect, or not protect, but not go to your break zone. You can put it at the bottom of your deck. You can then play Spiritus, you pay X, and then you search that forward again and play it onto the field. It could be something like Nidhogg if you really wanted. So obviously you play Leviathan, put Nidhogg at the bottom of your deck, you play Spiritus, you pay 9 to then bring Nidhogg back onto the field. That is a heavy investment, obviously, because you are paying for Leviathan, which at base is going to be 6 CP. But it's not obviously the only one you could do. There are a lot of good dark cards out there. It could be something like Camlanor, which will itself also search you a card to hand, a dark card to hand. So there's a lot of cool combos, but yeah, being able to put a dark card back into your deck and then playing Spiritus, then bring it back onto the field to re-trigger its entry effect is pretty decent. Thief. So we're going for the offensive side of the choose a light or dark forward now. So let's say your opponent has something irritating that you don't want there, so let's go with Goldes, or Goldies, however you want to say it. You can cast Leviathan, get a war card from your break zone back to your hand, and then put Goldes on top of your opponent's deck. You can then cast with Thief, who at the moment is probably one of the most reliable ways to mill your opponent. You attack with Thief, and that then puts the top card of their deck into the break zone. And if you look at it, you've put a forward that was on the field into the break zone. Realistically, there's maybe a few steps involved in there, but ultimately you've broken that forward without any of the downsides of putting it into the break zone. Okay, Sophie, a little bit meta here. Water doesn't have that much recursion as it goes at the moment. It's got lots of bouncing things back to hand, so it's kind of got that initial protection, but once something's already in your break zone, there's not a great amount of ways to be able to get things back to your hand. Now, obviously, Earth has that, Fire has it, lots of different elements have proper good recursion now, but this is probably one of Water's first proper ways to be able to get something from your break zone back into your hand. So Sophie kicks the bucket because obviously your opponent doesn't want to take opponent damage from her. You can cast Leviathan, get her back to your hand, maybe bounce one of your opponent's forwards as well, replay Sophie, and then hopefully draw a card and deal your opponent a point of damage. Okay, Porum. So this forward doesn't see much play at all, but I think that's mostly due to the fact that there are better Porums out there, and she isn't an EX burst, but she still has a respectable ability of, when Porum enters the field, activate all the forwards you control, so you can attack with 1 or 2 forwards, play Porum, they become active again. But I'm more focusing on her S ability, which is a Curaga S, and it is only required a single S card, so you can just discard the S, Porum doesn't have to go dull or anything like that, no extra payments, just the S card. And let's choose one forward you control. During this turn, the next damage dealt to it becomes 0 instead. So let's say your opponent attacks with a forward. You block with Porum, and then you cast Porum's S Curaga to make it so that she won't take damage. But your opponent has a response. They're going to cast something like, I don't know, Ifrit, and they plan to kill Porum before the Curaga S happens. What you can do in response is cast Leviathan. You cast Leviathan to, I don't know, bounce a forward your opponent controls. Doesn't necessarily have to be the attacking one, it could be another forward that you don't want them to attack with. But you can get the Porum that you put into the break zone for her, the payment for her S ability, add that back to your hand, and obviously Leviathan will resolve, and then at the point before the fire summon, Ifrit, would resolve, you could then use Porum's S ability again, and that would mean that then she would not take damage from the summon that's about to happen. So unless they have a second summon they want to stack on this, just to be able to kill your Porum or whatever forward you're choosing with the Kurage S ability, yeah, ultimately you're getting 2 instances of this forward, the damage it takes is reduced to 0, but it happens twice, so that means it won't take the damage from the summon that your opponent has cast, and then they also won't take the damage from the block as well. And last but not least, we have Tidus, however you want to say it. A bit of a wonky card, and not the most playable because you can only pay with CP produced by water backups to play Tidus from your hand onto the field, and if you're casting Leviathan to get Tidus from your break zone to hand, that means you're going to be paying a fair amount out of your hand to be able to play this. But again, if you're bouncing a forward your opponent controls or putting a dark card they have to the bottom of their deck, or to protecting your own light or dark cards, but ultimately your opponent could attack with something, you could cast Leviathan to grab Tidus out of your break zone, play him onto the field because he's back attack, and he can either activate all the water forwards you control, or he can choose himself to gain plus 2000 power, and then he becomes a 9k blocker, and ultimately paying 3 CP to be able to play a back attack 9k blocker is fairly decent. There we go, folks, Leviathan. Again, he's quite an interesting card. He does have that kind of cost limit there, which does make him a little less playable, but I don't think that makes him a bad card necessarily. He is an EX burst, and getting this EX and then be able to choose 2 of those abilities is decent enough because, provided you're in water, it's any water forward in your break zone to be able to get back to hand, so that's fine. The chances are at some point you're going to have a water forward in your break zone unless you're getting very unlucky with your draws. But then also being able to bounce something just as the EX burst, be able to recur some value to hand, and also oppress your opponent's field a little bit more is decent. But I really like the choose one light or dark forward, put it at the top or bottom of either of your decks is really cool. And I think, it's one of those cards which will get better over time because the more light and dark cards that come into the game, the more viable he will be. Anyway, thank you ever so much, folks. Thank you for watching this video. I'm really excited to see what the people of the community have to reveal in their spoilers. Anyway, stay safe, be lucky, and I'll see you in the next video.